A former head basketball coach at DISD tonight says he was fired after standing up to his boss, the high school principal. What's more, he says DISD officials upheld his firing despite what he says is evidence of harassment, even retaliation. Brett Shipp has more as News 8 investigates.
Working out and keeping active is important to Stanford Hill because he wants to coach again. After 29 years of coaching, after winning a state title at Dallas Roosevelt High in 2006, Skyline's head basketball coach for the past 4 years was fired. That despite making the playoffs every year, including this past year.
I was told I was released because of my declining record.
15 wins and 17 losses this year. But Hill believes his firing had more to do with one particular player whose parents, he says, constantly texted and called him about their son. Many of the texts were casual, like this one. "We are fanatics like other parents. He wants to play Division I in college, so we gotta help him get better." But other texts had a more threatening tone, like this from the father. "Did our son do something wrong not to start? He played 6 minutes total." After the game, Hill got this text: "My wife is waiting to see you."
This when things really got heated. This was the day that I did not start him. This is right after our game.
What's she saying here? I'm waiting
to meet with you. This was right after our game that we got beat by Pierce, that I did not start her son.
A text that would have been easy for most coaches to ignore, but not when it's coming from his boss, Skyline principal Harold Wright.
Well, I feel like I had to go out and meet with his wife because he's the principal, and I feel like if I didn't go out and meet with his wife at that particular time, then I would probably lose my job the next day.
A week later, after another game, Coach Hill says he got this text from Principal Wright: "I'm not pleased."
Who's not pleased?
He said he's not pleased. That was after our game.
The principal?
Yes.
Your boss?
Yes.
Is that appropriate?
No.
After another game, Hill received this text: "Thanks, my wife has calmed down. We are just a bit stressed. Sorry."
Are you getting text messages from any other parent to this extent?
No.
To any extent?
No.
And no other parent was in a position to fire Hill, which is what Wright did just days after the season was over and just in time for his son's senior season. When Coach Hill filed a grievance alleging retaliation, he was shocked to learn that his Level 1 hearing examiner was none other than his boss, Principal Wright. Not only did Wright deny his grievance, Hill was denied at all 3 levels of DISD hearings.
Mr. Hill, good luck.
But Hill says at no time during the grievance process were the text messages reviewed or even considered. Wright declined an on-camera interview with News 8 but did issue this statement: "As principal, I have to make difficult decisions that I believe are ultimately in the best interest of all students and student-athletes at Skyline High School. I have and always will continue to respect Mr. Hill, and I wish him the best." But no mention of the hundreds of texts regarding his son, texts that Wright is still not interested in discussing.
On April 17th this year, Coach Hill's attorney, Brian Sanford, founder of the Sanford law firm, filed suit against the Dallas Independent School District and Skyline High School principal Harold Wright in Dallas County Court. In this insider-exclusive Investigative Network TV special, Coach Fired Unlawfully, Stanford Hill's Story, our news team examines the issues and strategies in Coach Hill's pending case in this exclusive interview with Coach Hill and his lawyer, Brian Sanford. Under Texas state law, educators cannot use coercive means to influence other educators. Under the Texas Penal Code, a state employee commits an offense if he violates a law relating to the Public Services Office or employment, or misuses governmental personnel. The Texas Supreme Court in Sabine Pilot Services versus Hawk has held that terminating or adversely impacting an employee for refusing to commit an illegal act is a violation of the law. The Dallas Independent School District terminated Coach Hill as a coach for refusing to participate in a crime. Brian has earned the highest respect from citizens and lawyers alike as one of the best trial lawyers in Dallas, in Texas, and in the nation. He makes it a dedicated mission to get legitimate and truthful answers to what really happened to his clients in each case. And because of that, he is driven to fight for people who have been harmed by the willful or negligent actions of others. Brian has built a substantial reputation nationwide by consistently winning cases other law firms have turned down. And his amazing courtroom skills and headline-grabbing success rate continue to provide his clients with the results they need and the results they deserve. This is the Insider Exclusive, live from Dallas, Texas. It is my great pleasure to introduce Brian Sanford to the show. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you, Steve.
Tell our audience a little bit about your law firm. What kind of law do you practice?
Well, we practice primarily employment law, representing almost exclusively the employee. Mm-hmm. So it's wrongful termination, discrimination, retaliation, anything you can think about that would relate to employee rights.
Today we are here talking about one of your cases, Coach Stanford Hill. Tell our audience a little bit about who the coach is. What kind of guy is he?
Well, Stanford's a great guy. You can tell he has a big heart. He's kind of a soft-spoken gentleman. He loves basketball. Coaching basketball was his life. He wants it to be his life.
And what happened to him? I mean, he's a winning coach, isn't he?
He's a winning coach.
Won a championship.
He won a state championship in a not the highest division, but a lesser division, and then was hired by a top division, a school, Skyline High School here in Dallas, because of his abilities and his experience and his success and his love of coaching.
Right.
But unfortunately, he was terminated from his coaching responsibilities and was not able to coach in Dallas any longer because he would not play the principal's son for the amount of time that the principal wanted him to play.
Now, we have shown already on camera in the beginning of the show some of the text messages that he received from, was it the principal's wife?
It was.
It was stating why you didn't play my son more and that sort of thing. But his main job was to win games, right? With players that could win them, right?
That was his job.
Yeah.
And there's law, there's the Texas Administrative Code that prohibits administrators from using undue influence to coerce other people to alter their professional judgment, especially for the benefit of family members.
Right. Now, I want to point out to our audience that initially, before Coach Hill came to you, he was basically terminated, wasn't he, from his job?
He was.
He sought to go through the procedure internally to air his grievances. What happened with that?
He went all the way through the grievance process, and it's really kind of stacked against him.
Yeah.
And he knew probably from the beginning that it was not going to be successful, and it was not. Went all the way up through the top of the, I believe all the way through the school board, and they just rubber stamped the decisions from below.
And what are your legal strategies to try and win this case?
We have two strategies. It's a little bit of an unusual case because you don't have a right just because the grievance was found to be invalid. There isn't a law that just protects you from that. There isn't a law that protects you just from wrongful termination. But there is a law in Texas that you may not be terminated for refusing to commit a crime. And there's another law that prohibits an individual from interfering with someone's contract. So we have two claims. One is wrongful termination for refusing to violate a law.
Okay, and that's what you classify as a crime.
It is a crime. It's a crime in Texas for a person in the government, even in education, to use undue influence to coerce someone to provide a benefit for a family member.
Okay. And the other claim?
And the other claim is tortious interference.
Mm-hmm.
So that's civil, and an individual may not interfere with a contract of another person. So that's against the principal individually, where he interfered with Coach Hill's employment contract with the school.
Mm-hmm. What has happened with Coach Hill after he was terminated from the school district?
Well, he found a job at a local Dallas charter school, but they did not have a basketball program.
Right.
So
but he can't coach in the Dallas school district right now,
He cannot. And he has not been able to find a coaching job until I think just recently he's been able to find a job coaching at a small college.
Yeah, the official reason that the school gave him for terminating his contract was he wasn't winning enough games. Is that right?
That is the official reason.
Okay, so it's kind of like performance-based, right?
That's right.
So other than that, there might be, because he's won championships before, there might be another school within the Dallas school system that might hire him to say, hey, why don't you bring our team up to par? So why aren't they hiring him right now? What's going on behind the scenes?
Well, that's a good question. You know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Why would they not hire somebody that's that successful?
Yeah.
It's because he brought the grievance program. He went through the grievance process.
In other words, he complained.
Yes.
And for those who complain, even on legitimate complaints, they get punished, right?
That's right.
They get blackballed, basically.
That's right.
And that's what's going on here, right?
That's what's going on here.
All right, very good. Fortunately, we have with us today Coach Hill, so we're going to bring him on right now. Stanford, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
I read your story. You're a great coach. You won a state championship, didn't you?
Yes, sir. In 2006.
And you were having a great time working at your school, correct? Being
Yes,
a
sir.
coach?
Uh-huh.
Tell our audience what happened.
My whole point of view of it is that during the time that I was coaching, and I loved coaching basketball, I loved teaching kids because I deemed teaching and coaching the same. It was just constant pressure from the time his son entered Skyline High School until the time I was terminated. His freshman year, for instance, he came in. They didn't live in the area, and in order for a kid to be eligible to play high school basketball in the state of Texas, you have to be in the attendance zone. He and his wife were putting pressure on me to move his son up to the varsity level his freshman year. But in order to do that, you would have to file a waiver with the UIL. And in order to do that, there's a $100 fee. Well, I explained there were 4 games left in the season. I explained to him, I said, look, Mr. Wright, the season's almost over. Let's just wait till next year, blah, 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 you know, because we're getting ready to go into the playoffs, and I don't think there's very much room for him to play anyway. And he stated that his wife had said, well, my wife said, you know, you may lose somebody to grades because, you know, grade-wise, you have to have a grade of 70 to pass
keep eligible
to play, keep eligible. And said, well, you might lose somebody to injury, lose somebody to grades. And so I got the paper, gave it to them. They went ahead and filed it, and of course it was passed. And we had, my coaching staff and I had a meeting. I remember it like it happened yesterday, and they said, and I had mentioned it to them. I said, well, look, what do y'all think about moving Mr. Wright's son up to play the last 4 games of the ball? We had already sealed the playoff spot, and I was just experimenting about what we were going to have next year and things like that. And they said, well, Coach, he's not ready. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't know I was receiving phone calls and text messages.
And when you say he's not ready, he had the determination to play?
Yes.
Your objective is to win games.
To win games.
That's why you were hired.
Yes, exactly.
So when you put someone that is not ready, that's not going to help you win, that doesn't make a lot of sense, does it?
No, it does not. And with that, I just went ahead and made the decision because, like I told them, they didn't know what was going on. And I just thought to myself, I said, look, with him calling me, I see where this is going, and text messages, I said, let me go ahead and put him up on the varsity for the last 4 games. Let him play, and things went. Then the playoff came in our playoff roster. He expected me to put him on the playoff roster. I didn't. I brought 4 more freshmen up, 4 guys, underclassmen, not necessarily just freshmen, but he was included in the group that we just brought along for the experience to get them ready for next year. And he was upset that he wasn't even suited up to play. And, you know, and I explained to the son that, look, you're a freshman, we have an experienced roster here, our objective is to go and win, not just to be in the playoffs, we want to win. And I knew playing him, that wouldn't work out.
Yeah.
And so the following year, his sophomore year came along. That year we had a great football team. Our football program's been outstanding since we've been there. And 4 of my starters were on the football team. His son wound up being on the varsity at the beginning of the year by default because our football team, I think, made it to the state semifinal, got beaten state semifinal game. So I didn't get them until it was late in December, actually. So he was on the varsity as a sophomore by default, because he was one of the best players left there in the basketball program that just played all season, straight basketball. So when that time called, by the time I got my football players, I chose not to start him when I got my football players, and that was our first district game. And
He had better players.
Had better players, because they were better football. The football players were that good that they could actually walk off the football field and actually play without even practicing. I mean, that's just how good they were.
Yeah.
So I chose not to start him. And when I chose not to start him, that night before I got home, I had received phone calls, I had received text messages
From
the principal.
From the principal.
From the principal, Mr.
Saying
Wright.
basically what?
Saying basically what's going on, why did my son not play?
Yeah.
You know, what
Did you ever say to the, did you ever say, he's your boss, did you ever say he's just not ready? I think that's a nice word to say, but he doesn't have the experience level, the talent to let us win. Did you ever say that to him?
I never said that to him directly, but what I wanted to do, I offered, when I saw where this was going, Steve, I asked him, I said, Mr. Wright, can you and I talk, go to dinner one weekend, just on this was actually on a Friday. I said, tomorrow, can we just meet somewhere and talk?
Yeah.
Eat dinner, have lunch or something, and just talk about this, because I saw where it was going.
Yeah. Did that happen?
He texted me that Saturday morning and said, we don't need to meet, your job is fine. See, he said that, so he knew what I was thinking, that my job was in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk to him about it, just Mr. Wright, the person, not Mr. Wright, the principal.
Did you ever have that opportunity to sit down and talk man to man with him?
No.
Never.
It was always not man to man, it was always in a business-like format. He wanted to meet in his office where he was the principal, I was the
But you were getting text
Yes.
and phone calls from both him and his wife.
And his wife, yes.
And his wife.
Yes.
Basically saying the same thing, play my son, play my son.
Yes.
I don't care if you're not going to win, just play him, right?
That's
so eventually what happened? They fired you, right?
They fired me, yes.
And here you are, a winning coach. You were trying to do the right thing. You were doing the job you were paid for.
Yes.
And you get fired.
Yes.
Now, we know you, after you got fired, you sought to go through the grievance committee, file a complaint, correct?
Yes.
And basically was shut down.
Exactly.
And that's when you came to Brian here to handle your case, because you have been wrongfully terminated for trying to do the right thing, and state law has possibly been violated. One of the other reasons we do these shows is here you stood up for what is right. And this is a fair question. Have you been blackballed basically by the Dallas School District in
Yes, I
working
have.
as a coach?
Yes, I have. I was told that personally by the assistant athletic director after I filed the grievance before it went to the level 2 hearing. He came to my office and spoke with me one day, and he basically told me, I took it as a threat. He said that if you continue with this, he said someone was influencing me to do this, I was getting the wrong information, but he said that if I continued to do this, he couldn't guarantee me that I would coach again.
Yeah, in other words, if you don't shut up, you're never going to work in this town again.
Yes.
Basically.
Basically, yes, sir.
That's a terrible burden to bear.
Yes.
And obviously this has affected your family financially because you didn't have the income that you're having coming in, which is one of the reasons we do these shows, because this show is all about people standing up for their rights and some of the damage that they have to go through, the struggle they have to go through to get justice, right?
Yes, sir.
What do you want to see done here?
Well, my reputation has been tarnished and like I said, I've lost compensation, and I feel like I've been wrong because I pride myself on doing my job. I've been teaching and coaching for 30 years. I've never been written up about anything. I've never been investigated for anything, recruiting, like what's going on with DISD
no
now.
scandals.
No scandals whatsoever.
Yeah, won championships.
And won the championship. And I've always made the playoffs. I have a winning record to prove it.
You're on national TV right now. What do you want to say to your former boss?
That I just like to be vindicated and get things right. You know, that I've done my job. I did what you asked me to do.
All right. I want to thank you very much for spending time on the show.
Thank you.
Brian, how do you select your clients and their cases? What procedure do you analyze?
Well, like I said earlier, first I look to see, is there a legal remedy?
Yeah.
Second, is this person a good person? Were they a good employee? And are we going to win if we take this all the way to a jury or a judge with the truth, no matter what it is? And is there something not just legally wrong, but morally wrong?
Yeah.
So I look at the moral core of the issue, and if I believe that there was a true injustice done, and the truth is going to win out at the end of the day, then I'll take that person. And they don't have to be perfect.
Yeah, well, because of lawyers like yourself who gamble their time and their money, you know, in pursuing the hands of justice, we have good decisions, and I'm glad you were able to share this case that's pending right now in Coach Hill. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.